rolling our beacon. Alright, this is the Seiko Goku versus the Seiko Shogun. What's higher than a Shogun? A Daimyo?
I have no idea.
No, I'm gonna find. We need to nickname it. We need to give it a name. This is the Seiko Daimyo versus the Seiko Shogun. Dude, let's make that stick. I think calling the Seiko Marine Master, the Marine Master is such a boring name. Comment in the comment section down below if you think the Marine Master is like a cool name. The Submariner is a cool name. I think that's my favorite part about the Rolex Submariner.
There's the name. Multiple, what's it called? There's multiple Marine Masters too. This tune has a Marine Master. So
that's true.
It needs a real nickname.
It needs a real nickname.
That's the problem.
Guys, from here on out, the MM300, as you once knew it, is now the Seiko Daimyo. That just sounds badass, dude. Hi guys, I'm Pat.
I'm Adam.
And this is Clock,
Sock,
and Barrel. Coming at you with a consumer's opinion on everything watch related. Today we have an awesome comparison video for you today. These are two Seiko watches in the Seiko dive watch lineup in the prospect world that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
The Seiko Shogun and the Seiko Daimyo. That's right guys, we coined it here. This is now the Marine Master 300 is officially the Seiko Daimyo. I'm going to put some text up on the screen so they know it's official. Okay, Seiko Daimyo.
Yeah,
just so you guys know
how to spell it.
Yeah, so they know how to spell it, and you can tell me how to pronounce it. But Seiko Daimyo, guys. Now these are two. I mean, they're sort of different worlds price-wise, but there are two watches that are sort of competing for your money. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people would say like you save a little bit more money and buy the Marine Master, but wait. Why wouldn't I want the titanium build of the Shogun? And you have both, and you have opinions on both.
Or why wouldn't you want a Sumo? Okay, guys, let's set the record straight. A Shogun is 100% worth, or a Marine Master is 100% worth 2 Shoguns, and a Marine Master is 100% worth 4 Sumos. End of discussion. But well, let's kind of get to it, and we'll kind of show you guys why. But I
like how you compared them that way, by the way.
That's everyone always talks about. They're like, you know, the Sumo, it's like the Marine Master, but the Marine Master is 4 times more. Yeah. It's like, yes, it is.
Is it worth 4 Sumos?
And a Submariner is not worth 4 Seiko Marine Masters.
No.
Boom.
4 Seiko Daimyos.
All right, so I guess we can knock off some of the stats real quick for these first.
Yeah, what do we want
to pick up the Marine Master?
I'd love to.
I'll rattle off some stats.
So guys, if you've never seen this watch on the channel, I'm going to put a card up in the top of this video so you guys can see our review of the watch. But yeah, this is the Seiko Daimyo.
Yep, the Daimyo. SBDX017. This is the kind of newer version that has the Dia Shield coating and I think a little bit better loom. Has the 8L35 movement, which is automatic, 26 joules, hacking and hand winding. Has that monoblock case, which is very, very, very.
This is what he's talking about.
Very unique.
Yes, so you'll access the movement through the front of the glass.
Yeah. So a lot of people say you have to send it to Japan. There are a couple people in the States that would be able to service it. Let's see, it has a Hardlex coating, anti-reflective.
Crystal on top.
Lumabrite, amazing loom on the hands and markers. Plus 15 to minus 10 seconds a day. I've observed about plus 3 seconds, plus 4 seconds maybe, plus 5 crown up or dial up per day, which is pretty great. 300 meters water resistance, anti-magnetic, 50-hour power reserve. It is 44 millimeters in diameter, but wears much smaller than that because the actual case is pretty fat, and the dial and the bezel is pretty cluttered.
Yeah.
So it gives off. It kind of wears more like an SKX, like a 42.5-ish.
Pretty much just buy an SKX.
Yeah.
Pretty much an SKX.
14.6 millimeter thickness, so it is pretty thick. But I still wear it all the time and don't have any issues with it. And yeah, and it has a great screw down crown and everything. So it's pretty much the greatest dive watch of all time.
Whoa. Bold, sir. Bold. And you know what?
And it also has a titanium clasp, which is worth noting because that's pretty. It has the titanium ratcheting clasp, which is pretty cool. You guys will see that in the other video.
Body. Yeah. What's great is it does match. You know, sometimes you'll notice with titanium it has a different hue or color. They did a great job pairing it with this bracelet.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's put this guy down.
Yeah. Okay. Shogun.
So Daimyo out of the way.
Boom. Titanium Shogun. 100% titanium.
God, I was like,
Literally feels like a feather. You guys have to hold one of these in person once to actually understand how light this is.
Yes, it's the honest experience.
Some titanium watches are actually like somewhat heavy, but this thing literally feels like a feather.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So this is the 6R1523 jewel automatic. Hacking and hand whiting. Has fully made of titanium, which is scratch proof via the Dia Shield coating. Actually, both of these come with a rubber strap too. We should note that, which are pretty good. It has hard legs as well. This one, I have an aftermarket anti-reflective coated sapphire. You can see that blue purplish tint in the right light, and actually outside when you're in natural daylight, it looks pretty badass to get those flashes of that. Plus 25 to minus 15 seconds per day accuracy, and this one is running like minus 7-ish per day. Which is okay, not the best, but...
This is almost the same buckle or clasp system, except it's not ratcheting. It's actually a little cheaper, too, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty stamped.
Yeah, it's just a full rubber clasp.
It's
not that great, honestly.
But
200 meter water resistant, also 50-hour power reserve, 44 millimeters as well, but it's a little bit thinner at 13.3 millimeters, and yes, screw down crown, of course, too, as well. And that's the stats for the two. So,
yeah.
Now that we got all the boring stuff out of the way.
Let's look at these two side by side. So you know how we usually do it here, guys.
Both are 44.
Both are 44, but they're certainly not the same thickness, so they're certainly not the same weight.
Yeah.
But we'd like to talk about the bracelets first.
Let's do that.
We're going to ignore the rubber straps. I believe the MM300 comes with a waffle strap.
Yeah, it comes with a
traditional.
waffle. Yeah, it's not the best strap in the world. I heat it up and kind of mold it so that it's
a
not
20 millimeter lug width.
20 millimeter lug width as opposed to 22 on this bad boy.
For the Seiko Shogun. So the Daimyo is a little bit smaller lug width. And I actually prefer 20 millimeters on most of my watches. I don't know, proportionally speaking, if it's design-wise would have been better.
I love the 22. I love how... I love the kind of bigger case. I love the 44 millimeter case with the 20 millimeter lugs. I think it looks really, really great.
Proportionally, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen an issue with it. The 22 looks a little too wide to me, if I'm being honest with you guys.
Yeah, it could be a little thinner.
But anyway, let's talk about the bracelets first, and why don't we start with the Marine Master?
Yeah, so, I mean, you have some brushed with some polished bits here. It's pretty aesthetically pleasing. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's still used as a pin and collar system, which is kind of crappy for the price that you pay for this actual watch, but whatever. It has a very cool titanium ratcheting clasp, though.
The clasp is great. I actually really like the clasp.
Sticks out kind of far. Some people don't really like that. It used to bother me, and it doesn't really bother me as much anymore, but... It is pretty cool that it does ratchet.
Yes.
So that's a ratcheting diver's extension,
and you can even use that in the summer or spring months.
I use it all the time. Yeah. Already it's May here in New York City, and I'll kind of pop it open a couple notches to open it up.
But yeah, the clasp is good. Is it within its price range? Is it a good bracelet? No, it's a little cheap. I do like the clasp, though. I think the clasp is its saving grace. And it's also nice that a lot of companies produce aftermarket straps for the Marine Master and the Shogun, for that matter.
Yeah, Strapcode has a couple good ones for the Marine Master.
Yeah, so there's definitely options out there. And again, you're not spending too much for a watch that's phenomenal.
Right.
So, you can spend a little bit of money and treat yourself on a different bracelet. And what's cool is that a lot of these companies make it so that you can integrate the original clasp, that titanium clasp.
Yeah.
Because it is a good clasp.
Exactly.
The Shogun, on the other hand, okay, so it's hard to assess quality, and I know a lot of people have made this complaint about the Shogun, is it's so feather light that you don't feel like you're holding something substantial, and I'll argue otherwise. Titanium, guys, is a lighter metal and material, and it's supposed to be comfortable on the wrist, and it certainly achieves that by being made entirely out of titanium.
And it's not freezing cold in the winter when you put it on your wrist, too, which is nice.
Yeah, it's such an interesting quality. I have a titanium watch coming in that I'm very excited for. But this guy, it's like the links have no character. They're flat. They're oyster-like, except they're slightly curved upwards. You can see what I'm talking about where they meet the case. And while it does have a nice aesthetic, and it sort of fits that Shogun personality, it almost looks like the horns of a helmet or something like that, it's just a very boring-looking bracelet. The center links pop out ever so slightly, but I'll note that it's all one piece of metal. There's, they're not separated pieces of steel. So you may or may not like that. It's DShield coated, excuse me. So that's good. It's a good property. But otherwise, it's kind of a bland looking bracelet. Again, you can switch this out. It's got a nice universal lug width of 22. 20 and 22 are very, very common. So you probably have a nylon strap for this. And again, we'll look at this clasp. I highlighted it earlier. This is also titanium, am I correct?
Yeah, everything.
But you'll notice this clasp is the same one that they use on the SRP Turtle. It's the same one they use on the
right
SB.
here.
Exactly, here. Thank you. It's literally the same clasp. Literally the same clasp, guys, except it's made out of a different material. And again, the SRP Turtle can be found anywhere between $200 to $400 at most at the top end price range. And you're spending how much for this? Seiko Shogun?
Brand new, I think, it'd be almost $900 on the secondhand market, like
Guys,
$800.
You can give us a better clasp. I'm really disappointed to say that this is the clasp that you received with this watch. It's crap. And then there's a diver extension here too. It's definitely not ratcheting. It adds just a little bit more width so you can fit it over a wetsuit, and I'm sure that's just enough for you divers out there. Yeah. Is this practical and does it work? Yes. It's a fold over clasp with a little locking bar here and the push deployant. It's very basic. The bracelet itself, a pin collar again for the links. It's nice and easy to size. I like how the micro adjustments have a good distance between them. But other than that, it's just an uneventful, unexciting bracelet.
Now let's get to what really separates the Marine Master from any other watch.
The movement, or are you talking about that head?
The head.
So let's start with the Marine Master.
We knocked out the crappy part.
Let's talk about that Marine Master.
The bracelets.
Yeah.
So, God, I don't have anything else to say anymore. This is like one of my favorite watches of all time. This head. So, guys, you really need to see this in person too. I mean,
if you've never seen a Marine Master in person,
you really need to. The proportions and everything in person when you actually hold it are absolutely incredible, and the casework and the finishing between the brush edges, the polished edges, the aluminum bezel, the way it changes color in the light, and as you mentioned, it kind of goes ghosted.
It's the oddest thing, but it's a deep black in certain lights, and then when it catches light, it becomes this sort of ghost gray. It's just a way.
It's almost like a sapphire.
You can see it there.
It's almost like a sapphire.
It looks like a sapphire crystal, but it's not covered by a sapphire crystal.
It's aluminum coated with some gloss finish that makes it look absolutely incredible. The hands, the loom on this is definitely better than the Shogun, I will say that.
Oh yeah, but the level of craftsmanship, and I believe it's actually done by hand, the bezel insert.
Yeah, the loom plots also, the loom is done by a master watchmaker who fills those plots.
And you can see just how thick those plots are, the ones that they inlaid on the dial, and as opposed to the Shogun, the Daimyo is definitely a step above, because these are also inlaid hour markings, but they're so thin, they're so small, there's not as much Lumibrite, so of course it's not going to maintain or have as bright a loom plot as the Marine Master.
Right.
But also those broadsword, those thick slabs, they're like Claymore-like hands. They're so thick. The metal, and I'll throw this into the arena only because it's another Seiko equivalent. But I'm sorry, man. My Grand Seiko, you'll notice it has very thick hands. But the Marine Master, and this is, technically a step below, has even thicker slabs of steel that are circling that dial, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
So much loom caked on there too. And even like the bezel action too. Honestly, I'm going to say that this has the best bezel action of any watch.
I'll agree. And we've played with Doxas, we've played with Rolexes,
all around the spectrum.
You name it. The only thing I really haven't that's famous for creating dive watches is Blancpain, and I've never played with a Blancpain bezel of 50 fathoms, and maybe that would be better. I can't imagine how it could be, but the bezel on the Marine Master, that's the thing you really want to take in, is it's perfectly damp. Yeah. It's 120 click. Yeah. It's perfectly aligned, at least on this model. I'm sure it could vary between models, but it's one of the best bezels ever. And also the size, the overall girth, and the way it's finished, that coin edge, it's so easy to grip, so easy to turn. It's just a pleasure. Yeah. It's such a pleasure. And also the crown action's great. It's what you'd expect. And really fantastic movement inside as well. Yeah. And it's been accurate. This movement's been accurate.
And seeing that polish right there, you can really see that brush.
This is where people liken it to the Sumo, by the way. The sides of the case.
Absolutely.
They're
the lugs curve.
And they are very similar. the Sumo in this instance would be pulling aesthetic cues off of the Marine Master, because the Marine Master is an older model.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, it's
67, I think, is when the first sort of Marine Master style case came out.
It's so beautiful though. And because of the monoblock case design, the end links in the bracelet meet the back of that case perfectly, so it fits flush against the wrist. I hate it when a case back juts out too far and is just pushing into your wrist. It's not very comfortable whatsoever, but this guy is like...
And you know what's great too? It's not just where the case meets. What makes this so comfortable, a lot of times, sometimes if you're wearing a watch and you lift your...
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what you mean. Feel that.
Yeah.
But the way...
the crown, all that stuff digging into your wrist or your hand.
The way this curves up on a slant makes it so comfortable, even with how heavy this is. And some people complain this is a little bit top heavy. With how heavy this is, when this kind of scoots down all the way, you can see my tuna there, when it scoots down all the way to the end of your wrist, you still have so much mobility to go back without sort of the Marine Master digging into your wrist, you know? So that's what makes this thing amazing. I mean, what can I say? This thing is like the greatest watch of all time.
Yeah, that's so... Okay, so you know how we feel about the Marine Master, and I'll just say right now, if I were to give this a number system, the dimensions aren't my favorite. I kind of wish it could be smaller, that's just me. However, the overall case design, fit, finish, and the level of craftsmanship and thought that went in between the dial, to the movement, to the case itself, is definitely like a 10 out of 10.
Agreed.
And we've been through so many dive watches, and I think it's sort of unanimous with both of us. And again, that's just our opinion. If you guys have varying opinions, let us know, but you're wrong. And guys, now to the Shogun. Daimyo out of the way. I'm going to say Daimyo as much as possible in this video. I'm going to get it to stick. The Shogun. And you know what? It's a sick case.
It really is. Yeah.
It's very similar to the Seiko Samurai, which is a lesser model. It uses 7S26. Those are becoming very collectible. But let's talk about this guy. So the case, the back juts out just a little bit, but not overly so that it becomes uncomfortable. But it's a typical screw-on case back, so it's easier to, it's more accessible for your watchsmith. But it's got a lot of nice detailing as well. You've got those high polished ends, very similar to the Marine Master, so it's comfortable on the wrist. You know, as it plays on the wrist, it's very wearable. And also you have a slight bevel right along the side of the case where it meets the bezel. So just a little bit of eye-catching polished beveling there. And it's nice, but for the most part the case is just brushed. And very plainly brushed straight down on the lugs, brushed straight across on the sides. So it doesn't add any sort of dimension to the watch or any sort of curvature to it. It's a very rugged, very clean-cut watch. And it lends to being a very nice, utilitarian-looking piece. And a lot of people love the Shogun for this case because it is very comfortable on the wrist and it's very light, and they're both very true.
Absolutely.
And the bezel action itself, now in no way does this compete with the Marine Master.
Yeah, it feels a little tinny, but that's also because it's titanium, you know?
Yeah, what I will say is I can liken this, God, honestly, to a Seiko Monster. Or I honestly like the Seiko Sumo's bezel a little bit more than this, if I'm being honest. Because all the Sumos I've ever owned had very nice, like well-damped bezels, and I love how the bezel sort of steps down into the mineral crystal. And it's very aesthetically pleasing, and the action on the Sumos are phenomenal, and they're easier to grip, whereas this one sort of arches down towards the dial, as you can see what I'm talking about. So it's not as easily gripped, but I will say that the edge work on this is exactly like the Marine Masters. The spacing, everything is exactly like the Marine Masters. What I will say about this bezel in particular is it does line up very well. There's a little bit of back play when you hit these marks, but it is 120 click. I wish more people just did 60 click. Honestly,
I like 60 click.
I like 60 click far and above 120 click. It seems a little unnecessary unless your watch is that accurate. But given the expected time accuracy of these watches, why even add the extra 60? Because you know that the seconds hand is going to be off like damn near a minute anyways after the day. Like why do you, I don't know. Anyways, similar seconds hand to the Marine Master. However, the hand set itself, the hour and the minute, and the dial face is a little different. As we mentioned, they both have chapter rings. The chapter ring here is definitely more at an angle. It's very similar though, you know, each after every 5, there's a bigger indicator of the minute. The Marine Master, again, it just has a slightly nicer chapter ring, and it actually has its own kind of color tint to it. It almost ghosts very similarly to the bezel. Again, that's something you'd have to see in person. It's hard to capture on camera, but the chapter ring, you just take my word on it, is definitely a cut above on the Marine Master, so you are getting your money's worth there. The dial face here is sort of like this mute gray black for the Seiko Shogun. It's not...
Yeah, it's like a matte light black almost.
Yeah, it doesn't have any particular interest, but again, dive watches, tool watches like this, they shouldn't be too flashy or too showy to me. I think I honestly prefer dive watches with matte finishes on the dial. I think sunburst finishes are very, very beautiful, but it's more of like a dress appeal to me.
Yeah.
But you know, that shouldn't be a deterrent. So, you know, Seiko Shogun gets some good points there. The lume plots themselves are decent. And I like the literature on the dials. And why don't we look at that, by the way? A lot of people complain about the literature on the Marine Master.
Everything's cluttered.
It's a little cluttered. You know, I like how the Prospex logo, automatic divers, 200 meter, slopes down, sort of pyramids down towards the bottom of the dial. And it's just aesthetically pleasing on the eyes, where Marine Master, automatic, professional, 300. You know, it's like... It's odd, and they're different sizes of font, and they're different types of font. It's just a little odd. It could have been, they could have done a little bit better. If I'm going to knock off any sort of aesthetic points for either of these two watches, I like the literature on the dial of the Shogun more than the Seiko Marine Master.
Agreed.
But by no means is it a bad look. I think the way it steps down, goes back up and steps down, is actually very playful and nice on that dial. It works, but I can see where people dislike that look.
Right.
It is not as appealing as some of the original versions of the watch. But otherwise...
So what's your pick?
Well, is the Marine Master worth 2? Is the Daimyo worth 2 Seiko Shoguns?
Is it?
Totally. Totally. It's worth its weight in gold. It's twice the weight of 2 Shoguns. Here's the thing. If I were to buy this price range of Seiko diver, I would buy a tuna.
I was about to say that.
1, it's hyper accurate. 2, it's one of the best original case designs for a dive watch ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And the first versions of this watch were automatic, and then they moved to quartz.
Right.
And they created one of the best quartz movements.
One of the most iconic watches of all time, too.
Yeah.
And the thing was with these tunas, the 7C46. We'll do an entire video on this some other time.
It deserves a review. It definitely deserves more attention than we're giving it now.
The quartz 7C46 in this tuna is only in the Seiko tuna. It was literally a purpose-built quartz movement just for this watch. There's so many great things that we'll highlight about it, but it's pretty ugly. I mean, some people might argue its looks only a mother could love, but it is bad. I mean, this is like the definition of a tool diver. So true. And oh my god, and in ways, to me, this watch is better than its other Marine Master counterpart, the Seiko Daimyo, the Seiko MM300. The lume on this is insane. The lume on this is even better than the Marine Masters. And we're speaking specifically of the modern tunas. Yeah, the newer incarnations that have the brighter lume. Not to showboat. This is not a part of this comparison. However, but again, if you were to spend $700-800, you might want to go for a pre-owned tuna over the... Please consider the tuna. And again, aesthetically, they're apples and tunas. But as you can tell, they're completely different aesthetics. This one's a little more aggressive too. You can get the one with the ceramic or the aluminum ceramic bezel. It's actually ceramic. Yeah. You can get one with a ceramic bezel, which will look a little bit more. Is that steel or aluminum insert? I believe it's an aluminum insert. Actually, I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Anyways, you can also get strap code bracelets for this to make it look a little bit more. They're both the same lug width, by the way. Yeah, 22 millimeters. And what's nice about this is this outer shell that the tuna has. You can actually replace that. The shroud, as they call it. You can actually replace it later on should it wear down too much. Yeah. Or if you wanted a brush look, or you wanted a sandblasted look. Black ceramic even. I think there's a lot of aftermarket shrouds that people purchase. The tuna has such a great following. Yeah. Sorry, we're talking way too much on that. But again, you know, if I were looking at a good dive watch from the Seiko range of watches, they have such a great collection of watches that if you're interested in quartz, I would rather put my money towards that, if I'm being entirely honest with you. I think the Shogun itself, overall case, quality, design, movement, I think the Sumo is a better option over the Shogun. Exactly. I think I would rather spend a little over $300 for a used Sumo than I would for a Shogun. I agree 100%. Not only for aesthetic reasons, but I just don't see the, besides the titanium, the Sumo is no worse of a watch than this.
Yeah, and usually with our comparisons, it's sort of take your pick. But if we're going to give you our opinions this go around, I honestly think that the Marine Master is a better watch. If I were to spend money on a dive watch in the Seiko range, and I had the money to spend, I would be most satisfied acquiring a Marine Master or the Seiko Daimyo, as we call it here.
For me,
it's a better watch.
For me, it's Turtle Monster over the SKX for obvious reasons with the movement, right? Over the 7S. And then I would go Sumo, then I would go Tuna, and then I would go Daimyo, MM300.
Yeah, right? The Shogun doesn't even fit into the range. It's such an oddity within their lineup, It's this titanium diver. It's a very big size and scale, 44mm diameter. It's very big, but it doesn't wear that big. It's super light. It's such an odd... having it in person and wearing it, it's just not as enjoyable as a lot of their dive watch range.
Yeah,
and it's just upsetting.
But it is a great watch.
Yeah.
But when you consider everything you have in front of you with the Seiko line of divers, I wouldn't pick the Shogun. And I obviously picked up the Shogun and I picked up the Marine Master. Just wanted to see how the Shogun was. Thought I might keep both, but after actually having it, I'm 100% going to be selling the Shogun.
I think it's crazy. There's like diehard Shogun.
Yeah, there's people that you hail on YouTube that it's like the greatest watch of all time, really.
And I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
And for us at least, it's not, because once you own the Marine Master and you have it in hand, guys, this is really the king of their range, and there's a reason it costs more than those other watches. So don't be under the impression that it doesn't compete in its price range. It certainly does, and it competes well above its price range.
I would go as far as to say I would rather have a Monster SRP 307 over the Shogun.
Yeah. Save some money.
Save
some money and buy something else.
Yeah.
And just put it in the bank.
Yeah.
Totally. And I hate to say that. I think the Shogun for me maybe gets like a 7.5 out of 10 overall. It has a decent movement that can be found in a much more affordable body. It uses titanium, but to be honest, I prefer a little bit of heft in my watch. Like this stainless steel Grand Seiko, I love its heft. Those links are heavy. The head is
synonymous with quality usually, no matter regardless of if it's true or not.
You cannot avoid that mental stigma. Like it is the thing, and
I think I agree.
Better.
I'd give the Shogun maybe a 7.
Yeah.
I'd give the Marine Master like a 9.7.
9.7. Yeah, a few niggles with the
maybe not. I'll give it a 9.5. I'll give it a 9.5, and I'll give the Tuna a 9. So you can see there's a pretty big discrepancy there.
Yeah. And honestly, the Tuna wears the smallest.
Yeah,
that's the weirdest thing.
Even though it's 48, I think there's no lugs at all. So
all around vanishing lugs. It's so sick. Anyways, separate Tuna.
We'll do that some other time. There's people are like, what the fuck, man? Quartz for $1,000? Are you guys crazy?
No.
Just wait till you see our video on the Tuna, and you will understand.
Yeah. It really ticks people up. No, but guys, I don't know. I see like a high quality quartz movement is totally worth its weight in gold.
We're getting so off topic right now. Let's stick. So for sure, Marine Master absolutely trumps the Seiko Shogun.
Money well spent, guys.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Definitely.
If you like this video and you like the Marine Master, hit that like button. If you dislike this video and you dislike the Shogun, hit that like button. If you dislike this video, that is okay too.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button. If you really dislike it, I'm wearing 2 watches right now too. I feel like such a stooge. Oh my god. I just need to put one of these back in my watch box. At any rate, guys, we're going to enjoy the rest of this spring day. If you want to enjoy it with us in future episodes, hit that subscribe button. That's why it's there. It's on the homepage. It's on this video. It's on all of our videos. We produce 2 videos a week. It's all about watches. We're also going to start reviewing accessories and other things related to watches, so stay tuned for that.
Very cool.
We have some really great reviews coming up for Blue Shark NATO straps and some other companies that I won't disclose, but Blue Shark will be the first.
Yep.
They were kind enough to send us some straps to review, so hang tight for that.
Sneak peek.
Sneak peek. I'm wearing one now. You can see this if you want. But anyway, guys, like, share, subscribe, live, laugh, love, have fun, make friends, eat good barbecue today.
Oh, yeah.
And right? Oh man, I'm dying. I need to eat.
Yeah, me too. I haven't eaten today yet.
I want some tuna. I think that's why I get to bring up the tuna.
Tuna.
I'm so hungry.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you later.
See you guys.